Hey guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to be installing this really easy, simple watering system for our garden beds. This should save us a ton of time throughout the growing season, so stick around and I'll show you guys how I do this. Here's the kit that I'm going to be using today to set up my watering system. I purchased this from Lowe's. It says it has 100 foot of soaker hose as well as a bunch of different fittings so you can customize the shape to fit your garden bed. This soaker hose acts kind of like a rubbery sponge. As the water pressure fills up from the hose, it slowly leaks water out throughout the whole length of the hose. It works really well. I'll show you guys that at the end of the video how well it works. But it came with a bunch of different fittings. They're really easy to attach. All you have to do is slide them over the hose. I was a little concerned at first that this might leak, and it actually doesn't. It seals really well, and I don't know, the hose might actually expand once there's water pressure in it or something. Whatever mechanism they have inside these fittings, it grabs onto the hose really well. It doesn't want to let it go, so if you have to remove a fitting, we'll just wiggle it back and forth and spin it around while you're pulling on it, and it will come off, but it will wreck the end of the hose a little bit. So you'll just want to cut that off and put in a clean end instead. The garden bed I'm installing this on is sort of in a horseshoe shape. I want to be able to have one section where I hook up the hose and let it water the entire garden bed. So I'm going to be running the hose around the horseshoe shape and coming back. So I'm basically doing a big loop, and then I'll have one hose going down the middle. I'm not exactly sure what length I'm going to need the hose to be at, so I'm going to lay it out the way I want, and then I'll cut it to length after. I've actually wanted to make a watering system for a long time, either using PEX tubing or PVC, something to have a permanent solution for watering, but to make one of those would take a lot longer and cost a lot more than this simple kit. But I thought I'd give this kit a try and see what I thought. So far, I'm really impressed with it. It's working really well. My only concern is that this rubber might dry out over time and cause the hose to either stop leaking out completely or cause too big of cracks and leaks to where it's just drowning your garden in some places more than others. So I'll just have to keep an eye on that, and if you guys are interested to see how this lasts over time, just let me know in the comment section. I'll give you an update on how it's going. So I've got the full loop now going around the perimeter of the garden bed. Now I need to run one straight down the middle to kind of connect everything in between. So this one down the middle, I'm putting in a T on one side of the loop, and I'm going to put another T at the other end that it can connect to. So hopefully everything's tied together really well and it will water the whole area evenly. But I'm going to be laying this down through the middle, and I'm putting in a couple loops in this because there's a big empty space right here. I want to make sure I'm watering that thoroughly. That whole section right there is my asparagus, but I also want to leave a lot of slack in the hoses that if I need to, I can move the hoses around to line up with whatever plants I plant in the garden. This will make the garden bed watering system completely customizable each year. If I move the rows around, that's perfectly fine. I don't have to have everything in the exact same spot every single year. I think eventually I'm going to be burying all the hoses underneath the soil just a couple inches, and that will give all the water right at the root source of the plants. But right now I want to see how this works and make sure everything's working properly before I bury it. Now I'm at the other end of the horseshoe, and you can see I put in a T on that loop, and I'll just connect the hoses right there. So I have 3 lines all tying into one, and this works really well. It seems like it waters very evenly across the whole garden bed. Now, helpful tip to make this even easier, get some quick connections for your hose. Put one on the watering system and then one on your hose and one on the nozzle, so you can easily switch from one to the other and not have to go unscrew it each time you want to switch. So I've turned on the pressure. It takes a little while for the water to start coming out. It needs to force all the air that was in the hose out through those pores. But after a few seconds, the water starts beating up and falling right down to the bottom of the hose. And I have noticed that it doesn't look like it's soaking the whole area. From the top, everything's really dry and it's dusty. it just doesn't look like it's getting soaked. But if you take off just the top layer of soil, just an inch down maybe, everything's soaked under there. It really spreads out well and soaks the whole area because it's just slowly dripping down into the soil, so it's not flooding it, it's just leaking down and soaking the whole ground underneath it. So I'm going to make one quick minor change to this watering system, and that's where the hose is connecting. This 6-inch section right here has all the pressure, so it's dripping out really fast. As soon as it goes through that T, it cuts the pressure in half. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take that hose out and connect the hose directly to the T instead, and that will cut down on all the water leaking out before it even gets to the watering system. Now, something I wish this kit had is hoses that don't leak. That way you can connect multiple garden beds together, and then you wouldn't end up wasting water by watering sections or areas that you don't want to water. After switching out that fitting, it seems like it works a lot better. It's not losing a lot of water before it even gets to the garden bed. It seems like it's a lot more even and all the pressure isn't being released right at the beginning. So I've come back about 2 weeks after installing this watering system. The seeds that we've planted, some beets, are already starting to grow up in the lines. I've planted those about 3 inches away from the hose. They seem to be doing great. I've also buried the hose in the section where the asparagus are, and they are absolutely loving this. They need some regular water, consistent water, and they will just keep shooting up. I'm not supposed to be picking them right now. That's why they're all long and really bushy. After the springtime's over, you're supposed to let them grow up and let them get really bushy so that they can build up the nutrients back down in the bulbs. Then once they start turning brown in the fall or winter, you'll trim them off, and then it's ready for them to start shooting up in the next spring. Now I'm going to test something real quick and see how long I need the water to be running in order to soak the area and give the plants the water that they need. Now I haven't gotten any rain in about a week, and I haven't watered the garden for like 2 days or so. Now it definitely needs some water, it's dry, so I'm going to leave this on for about 10 to 15 minutes and come back and check this when it's done. So after about 10 minutes of running, I'm going to check this out and see how far down the water's gone. And immediately right on the top, it's really muddy, very wet and soft. So I'm going to dig down, even all the way down to a foot, it's still wet. So I'm happy with that. 10 minutes should be plenty for this garden bed, and that will go deep enough for all the plants here to really get the moisture they need down to the roots. Now on the other side of the garden bed where the asparagus are growing, I've buried the hose down under the soil about an inch or two, and on the top it's very dry, dusty, doesn't look like it's been watered in a long time. But if you dig down about an inch, it's very wet and soft. This is perfect, it's completely soaking the area, and this is sufficient water for the asparagus as well. So this is nice too, to have the hoses buried. It's not wasting all the water, watering all the mulch or whatever you have on top of the garden bed. It's just watering where the roots are and getting all the moisture directly there. You're not wasting all the water on top and watering weeds and things like that. Alright guys, that just about finishes up the video for today. Hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, hit that like button down below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And like I mentioned before, if you guys are interested in knowing how this holds up over time, let me know down in the comment section. I'll make sure I update you guys as time goes on. If you're interested in more videos like this one, go check out my channel and enjoy. Thanks so much for watching guys. I'll see you in the next one.